Hi everyone, welcome to Tasha Journeys live episode. I forgot already, but welcome back. We are back at the regular time, 7 p.m. I'm really disappointed about last Sunday. I recorded live to try to cheer my home team on, and they did not bring home the W. But back at 7 p.m. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I will say next Sunday is Super Bowl, so I'm gonna adjust the time again. I'm watching the Super Bowl, but I know a lot of y'all are. And then I forgot today was the Grammys. Who is watching the Grammys? Like, I cannot tell you the last time I watched an award show, like at all. So, yeah. Hi H and D abroad. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Tanya. Thank you for greeting me. Make sure you're saying hello as you're entering the chat, and let me know if I'm blurry. So I watched the replay yesterday. I did it live, and my internet was janky. It was blurry most of the time, but the audio was there. But I was like, why it looked like I'm on like a flip phone from the early 2000s? It was giving really bad quality. So hopefully the the picture is clearer than it was yesterday. Hi, welcome, welcome. And I will be, hey Tasha, I will be just going and talking and talking. But today is all about Q&A. My DMs be blowing up. And I want to give a special shout out to H&D and Broad because when I was on their channel last Saturday, I got so many so many DMs from that live that I was like, okay, wow, a lot of people want to know about Social Security. And I'm like, Social Security is complicated. So I do have a few. I'm only going to answer one Social Security question today, but I have it broken out by segment. So my business questions that I got, travel questions, my credit, all of that, I'll have it broken out. So yeah, I'm with you. I haven't watched it. I don't know the last time I watched a Grammy. So I seen that was on and I'm like, ain't nobody watching that. So I'm not about to push a lot back, but I know Super Bowl is like one of the most viewed broadcasts around the world. So I'm gonna, I don't know, I'll probably go to a Super Bowl party. I don't have any plans yet, but that's always like a last minute thing with me. But I was like, I'm still gonna go on at 7 today. All right, so I'm gonna start with business questions. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And if I can't get to them today, because I usually only stay on for an hour when I do my lives, I will definitely add it to the list of questions that I have coming up for the next live. So I want to make every first Sunday a Q&A. So I'm going to try to have my friends come on, my money friends to come on and give different perspectives to answers that I give to, just to make it a little bit more interesting. But first up is business questions that I got, that I received, I should say. Go to my questions. And I had to go through and summarize because sometimes when people, not sometimes, majority of the time, when people send me questions, direct message on Facebook, a lot of times I will say, I don't see those because I do not. If you, I have it set where if you're not my friend, then it's gonna go to spam. So I have to actively go in spam. Same thing on Instagram, but I did start going in there once I started. I think I think it was when H&D Abroad had said they were trying to get a hold of me, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, it was in my spam. So I started checking that more often than I normally do. But if you're on my Facebook page and even on YouTube, I text me your questions. I actually dropped my number. I'm gonna share it on the screen in a minute as well. Text me the question. You don't just text it because I'm not gonna say your name. I'm gonna keep it anonymous. That's the best way to get a question through to me. And the first question I have is related to accounting and Shopify. Hey Ruth. Um, so this person is, let me go back to my question. Sorry, y'all. I have it summarized to the right because I was saying that people send like two paragraphs for the question, and I'm like, I'm reading and reading, like, where's the question? So I had to go and copy and paste and summarize the questions for me to go through it. So the question basically was, what's the best way to set up accounting for my Shopify store? So if you have an interest in having an e store, if you're selling t-shirts or you want to have an online boutique, like most people use Shopify. So that is a website application that is user friendly for people to sell goods on. They create their store and they sell. Um, my answer to this is FreshBooks and QuickBooks. I was trying to see what accounting software integrated the best with Shopify. I'm not experienced with Shopify, so I just got my Google on, and then I was like, okay, I know QuickBooks, and I've heard of FreshBooks. I haven't used those. I haven't used FreshBooks personally, but QuickBooks is a well-known accounting software. I actually don't really love it. I've gotten used to it over the years, but QuickBooks and FreshBooks both integrate with Shopify. So they have like 8 recommended softwares that integrate with Shopify that you should check out. If you Google accounting software in Shopify, you can kind of get an answer that way. And then YouTube as well. And I know you probably asked me because I may have experience with dealing with Shopify and accounting softwares. I do not. But one thing I did notice when I was researching, because I was curious to know, was that there were several comments about people about QuickBooks, that QuickBooks did not integrate the inventory properly. So that is huge if you're doing online sales. And I would just say one thing I noticed about QuickBooks is it does not interface well with all of the banking accounts that someone may have in their business, or credit card accounts or loan accounts. There's always a lag. Sometimes not all the transactions come over. You have to constantly refresh and reconnect, and some transactions are lost. So that's just one of my pet peeves with QuickBooks. QuickBooks, FreshBooks, there are a lot of bookkeepers you can find online on Upwork or Fiverr that are certified in QuickBooks, have experience. Even if you just go to QuickBooks.com, you can find people who are specialized in bookkeeping. And for QuickBooks, they're called Pro, and so they are going to be able to help you integrate and do things a lot faster. So hopefully that answers your questions. Your question, I think that question came from when I did a little blurb on business accounting or business when I went live on H&D channel, because I got a lot of business questions after that. The next question is, should I set up an LLC before starting my business? What are the tax benefits for having an LLC over just starting my business? For answering the first question, if you're watching this and you're like, I want to start a business, and I'm waiting till I get my website, till I get my business card, till I get the LLC, I would just say try to get your first customer first and foremost, to even know if this is something that you want to do or continue doing. A lot of times we may be good at something, you may be good at baking cookies or pies, and then you realize I like making it for my family and friends, but constantly doing it and dealing with customers, this is more than what I thought, and I don't want to do it. LLC is providing you more of a legal protection more than anything. So if you were to have a business, let's say you have a landscaping business, I'm going to cut grass, do make beautify people's yards, and you set up an LLC, but you don't have business insurance, you don't have an operating agreement, and you end up hurting someone at their property, they sue you. If you do have an LLC, it can give you protection from your personal assets if you have your business structured properly. I am not an attorney, but that's the main thing with the LLC, is really to give you treatment as a separate entity in case you were to get sued. The only tax benefits with the LLC is if you elect to be an S corp, or you file to be to get taxed as an S corp or a C corp. That's the only way you're going to get different benefits from a sole proprietor. From a tax perspective, a LLC and sole proprietor are the same thing. If you have more than one person in an LLC, it's considered a partnership, and the taxation is different. So there's a lot of misconception that if you get the LLC, it's going to help you with tax time. There's more to it than just setting up the LLC. If you want to get tax benefits, you would have to elect to be not elect to B, but you would need to make different elections from an S or C corp standpoint to be able to get those tax benefits. All right. So if you're like, come on, without these business questions, that is, well, wait, I got one more business question. If you have any business questions or you know any uh, aspiring entrepreneurs, make sure you share this link with them because they may have different questions as it relates to business startup from an accounting perspective. The other question that I got, I skipped over it. I should have bolded this a little bit better. In my notes is, how do I find a CPA for my business, or what should I look for when this question was all over the place, but basically, when should I hire a CPA? What should I look for in a CPA when I'm at that point in my business to hire one, and at what point should I hire one? There's a lot of going on in this question that I received. The first thing I tell business owners is you need a really good bookkeeper. I do not do bookkeeping, and so what bookkeeping is that every time your business buys inventory, if they buy supplies needed for the business, a bookkeeper is going to assign that to a certain expense account. They're going to make sure your income that's coming in is going to income. They're making a profit and loss, also known as an income statement for your business. And they're also making a balance sheet for your business. These things are needed at around tax time. So a bookkeeper is preparing this for someone else to use, also for you to understand how much money your business is making. A lot of business owners don't really know. They know how much revenue they're making, but they don't know their true profit, income less expenses. So I always say start with a good bookkeeper. A CPA is used to help you set up for if you want to get lending, you want to prepare for lending, prepare for investors, tax time, filing your taxes and things like that. It's not meant for your day to day. It's meant to see like, hey, are you hitting your projections? This is what you can aim for. This is something that you may qualify that you don't know about, right? This is not someone that you would talk to. You are not going to talk to your CPA every day. Your bookkeeper you would be talking to every day or a few times a week. And this will give you perspective from a price point. Average bookkeeper is going to cost between $20 to $25 an hour, and a CPA is going to cost at least $100 an hour, right? So big difference, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's going to be, you need to be at a point in your business where you're making consistent revenue. So let's say first month you start off, you make 10 grand profit. I would say get a CPA because you want to make sure you are paying quarterly taxes. You want to make sure all that stuff is structured, right? But if your business is not, you're making negative the first few months, keep working your business and get a bookkeeper and try to turn a profit first before going in and hiring a CPA. A CPA that would take on a business with no revenue, I would be surprised because there's really nothing for them to do in a general business sense. If you are thinking of, if you are t-shirt business or jewelry business or something like that, but let's say you actually have a storefront and you have a restaurant, that's a little bit different, right? You would want to get a CPA to start off with that because I'm sure you have loans and investor money and all of that going into it. So hopefully that gives some perspective. All right. So now I'm done with the business questions. I don't see any other questions coming on as far as that. With the business setup, I would look for an attorney that specializes in business. Right. Same thing. Like for CPAs, like what do they specialize in? So for me, I do not specialize in tax. I mention tax a lot because I know tax strategy and tax planning more than most people would know. But that's not something I do on the day to day. I've done it for certain businesses, I've done it for myself, but I do not do that on a day to day. So you will want an attorney that specializes in business setup, business structure, and all of that, right? And an attorney will tell you, you don't want an attorney that specializes in family law to be taking you on to do business unless they may have do that in addition to that, but that's the question you want to ask. Also, you want to ask them like, what type of protection do they cover? Let's say, for example, I have real estate. So I did make inquiries with a real estate attorney about reading over the lease agreements that I set up. So I didn't just search for a business attorney. I got active in Facebook groups for real estate, and I just searched in the group in Detroit, like Detroit real estate attorneys, to see what the top recommended was. Went to their website and I scheduled a consultation. Sometimes it was paid, sometimes it was free, but just to see what would be the right fit for me, because I wanted someone to give me guidance on specific things. So hopefully that helps. But a business attorney, um, you will, if they say they specialize in business, you want to see what type of business they specialize in. Real estate, if you're thinking about having a service-based business, do they specialize in that, right? Because they will have more insight than someone who just specializes in like retail business. So hopefully that gives you some insight there. And then I'm going to move on to some travel questions that I've gotten. I haven't talked about travel a whole lot. Yesterday I went live with my friend Tanae, and she and I were talking about Kenya a lot and my experience there, because I want to move there eventually. But I haven't gone live talking about travel. So I will have to do that. I want to make Sundays more about finances more than anything. So I may do like travel Thursdays. I don't know. But we'll figure it out. Y'all see on the bottom of the screen, if y'all have questions for me and you do not want me to share, show your name and face, if you want to have more of a one-on-one dialogue with me about your money questions, go ahead and go to booktasha.com. Schedule either a 15-minute consultation with me or 1 hour. If you feel like you got a quick question, because Lord knows, I have so many people, I got a quick question. It's usually not quick because I'm an answer it and you will have more questions and all of that. So let's go to travel questions that I received. If you're new to my channel, I took a year sabbatical and I did actually 13 months and I did 19 countries, 5 continents. And so most of my videos on my channel are related to my travel blogs. That's how I got into YouTubing. This was never on my plan of things to do, but I love documenting my stories while traveling, and I really got into vlogging, and it's like my travel diary. So now I can go back. There are certain things that I've forgotten, and I go back and I like watch a video like, oh my God, like I forgot that happened. Um, so most common question, and I got this a lot recently, is how much should I save for a sabbatical, or how much did I save for my sabbatical? I never share my number on how much I saved, but for you to figure out how much money you would need if you're going on a sabbatical, is it 3 months, 6 months, or a year? And you need to have a time frame in mind. And I would say, first and foremost, your largest expense is going to be housing. So, are you going to be comfortable staying in random Airbnbs or hotels? Are you thinking, could you possibly do hostels? Are you open to house sitting? So, I stayed encouraged to do solo travel while watching Stephanie Perry's channel. I always say that. I feel like I mention Stephanie Perry every live. But I didn't take her approach of house sitting, but I know that's a popular thing to do. You can house sit around the world. People are traveling and they want someone to come in their home, and they don't want to necessarily pay them to come in their home, but you can go into their home, stay there, water their plants, walk their dog, or whatever for however long they're gone, right? So that's a one way to afford travel. So if you're like, oh, I really want to go to London, there's a lot of houses in London. So that may change your housing budget, right? But overall, it depends on your lifestyle, what you like to do. I would say average number I've heard in seen in Facebook groups or whatever, if people are going for a year, they are like, I'm trying to make it work with $25,000 or $30,000. But it also depends on what countries you're going to, and what continents. If you're going to Southeast Asia, you don't need a lot of money. I had Sean on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the cost of living in Thailand. You can live like a queen or a king in Thailand on $20,000 a whole year, right? So I'm saying you should say 20,000 to 30,000 to travel throughout different countries. But then if you want to stay in Amsterdam and go to Paris and all of that, that price is going to look a whole lot different. So it's more about structuring your budget, figuring out your housing, figuring out how much you want to allocate for food. If you're going to stay in an Airbnb or do house sitting, you'll have access to a kitchen, so that'll cut down on your food costs. What is your travel budget? What are those flights to go between the countries you want to go visit? That is the things you need to write down. Medical. And I have a video on the categories you should consider when creating your budget for sabbatical, but it's all about estimating per category how much you plan to spend. I would say if you just want a number, like I said, the number I see in Facebook groups are $25,000 to $30,000. If you just just tell me a number, that's your number. I'm getting a lot of people on my channel, finding my channel through my Bali is overhyped email. Bali is overhyped video. So I got a lot of questions. And on Instagram specifically, on why do I dislike Bali? A lot of Balinese are that's not a good representation of what you're saying of our country. Like that was an isolated incident. And I should change the title of my video and stuff like that. However, this was my experience. So I spent 1 month in Bali, and 3 weeks of my experience in Bali was just a no. The first week I was sick. I got Bali belly, but I stayed in a booth. So if you are thinking of Bali's on your bucket list, I'm not telling anyone to take a country off their list because everybody's experience is unique. But I'm saying a booth, and this is the part of Bali that I enjoyed the most. And I actually should have just went back to Ubud. I love Ubud because the Airbnb host, I got breakfast every morning brought to me. It was just the scenery was just absolutely beautiful. They took me everywhere. I wanted to understand their religion. I was interested in okay, I know I'm Christian, but how do you practice Hinduism and what's the difference between that? So they were just open to telling me about the culture. Because when I was traveling, I really wanted to understand people's cultures. I wasn't just going to get to take all the Instagrammable places. That just was not what I was on. So Abul was perfect for me, aside from being sick as a dog for 2 days. But they even the Airbnb hosts, they gave me tea. Like they brought me back to life a little bit because I was down bad. And it's very rare that I get sick to the point I was. And it was a little bit like, okay, I'm all the way in Bali by myself and I'm sick. I got to deal with this. Yeah, Bali is a good place to relax and be pampered if you go to the right spot. So my experience, for example, Sandra from Lack to Legacy, I think she loved Bali. Sean, she was on my channel. She said she doesn't have to go back to Bali, but she had a good experience in Bali. I do not think Bali is worth it from the sense of traveling from the United States all the way there. Thankfully, I was already in Southeast Asia, so I did not spend a ton of money to get to Bali. But my main complaints were what I said on the video. The beaches, I was not impressed by the beaches. Once I left Abu does not have beach areas. But I will say I did like their spas in Bali. Uh, Not more than Thailand though, because I had something to compare it to. The food in Bali was so. Even after I got sick, I was still eating there. I just felt like the whole time I was there, I'm like, I just want to go back to Thailand. I don't want to be here because this is it was no comparison to me. The spas I went to, just the food, I was like, I had better experience in Thailand. Also, when I was in Bali, I wasn't on vacation. I'm living my life. I'm traveling long term. So I I'm not there for a week to do quick photo shoots and go to all the different places. I'm living there for a month, right? So my experience is different. I need to go to Vietnam. Sandra and Sean has me excited for Vietnam. So when I go back to Southeast Asia, of course I'm gonna be in Thailand, but I'm gonna have to check out Vietnam for sure. But Bali, also from the standpoint of solo travelers, I couldn't connect with anybody. That was a country I was like, what in the heck? Like everywhere else I've been, even in freaking Bulgaria, like Eastern Europe, I ended up in Bulgaria randomly for a month, right? I had made a nice little community in Bulgaria over Bali. It just wasn't for me. Um, I was in the Facebook group and I just couldn't connect with people. It was just a weird experience. I even went to Gili Tea. I had to say, I just couldn't connect with the people. I just didn't like the beaches until I went to Gili Tea. And I felt like the value for my dollar in Bali, I got more out of I got better, it was higher quality, and I felt more at ease in Thailand with everything than in Bali. Um, so that's why I'm just like, ooh, I know I keep talking about Thailand so much in Kenya, but yeah. So if you had Bali on your list, I encourage you to check it out. I was there for a month. I was living. I wasn't just on a week vacation. I told my friends, do not ever ask me to go to Bali. If you got a birthday trip, you getting married there, I'm not gonna be there. I'm not spending my money to go back to Bali. I do want to go to Indonesia because I met some really nice Indonesians. And ran. I think when I was in Phuket, I met some really cool Indonesians who were like, no, you gotta come back. Don't think Bali is all of Indonesia, and Bali is just a portion of Indonesia. So I do want to go back to visit the mainland. But Bali itself, no. I would not want to take a 23-hour flight there. No. um I definitely want to go to New Zealand. Me and my mom went to Australia. My mom met me in Australia. And that's why I was stuck in Bali because typically when I was just traveling around, I had a loose itinerary. So if I liked the country, I would stay longer. Two countries I didn't have it. I had a firm date to leave was when I was in Kenya because I was going to Ghana for Afrochella in December and I was with a travel group. So I had to leave and I did not want to leave Kenya. I had to leave by a certain date. And then in Bali, I had already booked my flight to Australia to meet my mom. So I had to stay in Bali. I loved Australia and then Japan. I also was like fortunate enough to experience that with friends. I was in Tokyo and Kyoto. Love Japan, love Japan. And Australia was definitely a vibe. But that's why I don't like Bali overall. I just was not my vibe. Just overall. I just can't explain it other than that. This is a question that I get from everyone in person. Like visiting friends in church and doing some lives or whatever I've done while I was traveling. Would I ever do another year of solo world travel? Yes, but not like how I did it. How I did the travel, I thought I was doing slow travel, but it was exhausting. I had travel burnout a few times and I want to do it again, but that's why I keep saying Kenya and Thailand as places I want to semi-permanently relocate to is because I want to have an apartment there to be able to travel around. Because I was only traveling with a carry-on and a shoulder bag, and I got sick of repacking that thing. And then, like, I want to have my stuff. And when I say stuff, I want to have my stuff to cook. I always talk about food, but I cook my food. Like I cook breakfast every day. I cook my dinner like more often than not. Only time I don't really cook is in the summertime. So when you're constantly traveling, you may not figure out what grocery store has just chicken or rice or whatever. So you're constantly readjusting. And it was exciting the first 6 months. And the last 6 months, I was like, no, I want to stay put, which is why I ended up spending so much time in Thailand versus any other countries. Yeah, Bali is in Indonesia. Um, Maybe because it's just that area, and then a lot of people who are in Southeast Asia, they're going to Bali, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, because they're so close together. And so if you're watching, you're like, I have no idea where these countries are located in the proximity. Just think about if you are in the Midwest, like Detroit, Chicago, and New York, like that type of area. New York is not close, but like a few hours flight away is how these countries are located. Some of them are next door, and some of them are maybe a couple hour flight from each other. So a lot of people group them together. Southeast Asia is very cost effective. You will find a lot of people on YouTube um, mentioning how affordable it is. So that's why you hear me talk about it a lot. When I experienced my travel burnout, I went back to Bali. I went back to Chiang Mai specifically over what's the popular. I can't even think of it. Start with a B. I can't remember. I'm having brain fog. But I ran back to Chiang Mai. Went back to my apartment to the property manager that knew me. She was like, "You came back?" I'm like, "Yeah, I need an apartment for a month. I'm tired." And I just had my routine set there. And so what I realized about traveling for the whole year, yes, it's cool and it's exciting, but I need a place of solace. Like I need to be able to deprogram and then do it. I am introverted. Um, and I'm a introverted and I'm a loner. So I'm like, okay, this is cool, but this is just too much energy. I need a little bit more consistency. So yeah, I will definitely do another year of travel, but not the way I did it. So now let's talk about some credit questions that I got in my inbox. Let's see, trying to do this. So for the replay game, I know when I watch them live, I like to just scroll and see the banners at the bottom and see like what was y'all talking about. So credit question. I was going to save this for the live I'm doing with From Lack to Legacy. So February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, I'm going to be on a panel on Sandra's channel, From Lack to Legacy, with I think it's a total of 5 of us. We're going to be talking about money and like the taboo topics, really like relationship and money. So prenups, financial infidelity, all those juicy topics we're going to be talking about on February 15th at 8 p.m. So I'll be dropping that. If you follow me on YouTube, I'll put it on the community tab and I will be sharing it on social media. But the question is, my partner or my fiance has horrible credit. Will this impact my credit score once we get married? What what are some things I should consider? So I want to drop this link in here. So for people that this may apply to, if you're engaged or on the road to marriage and you're like one person has bad credit, there are some common myths when it comes to marriage and credit. So Equifax, with one of the credit bureaus, did a good job of listing those common myths. So I dropped it in the chat for you. If you're watching on the replay, go to the live stream chat and you'll see the link I dropped there. But the answer to this question is it only when you get married, you don't get like a combined credit score. You still have your own credit score, even when you change your name. It was going to show up on your credit report as a changed name. You don't get like I don't know, a Wallace joint credit score. Like that's not how that works. Your partner's bad credit impacts you when you file for joint accounts. So if you are applying for a mortgage together, their credit score is going to make you both get a higher interest rate because you're both on that loan. You can get denied for loans, credits, or whatever, credit card applications, getting a new car if you apply together and that person's credit score is so horrible. So it really only impacts you when you're applying for joint things. Um, I also wanted to mention because I read the Equifax thing because I was like, I hear a common question that I used to get I would do financial seminars at my church. And it will be, people about to get married and a lot of myths that I got. So I was like, let me think of some things that people used to ask me all the time, randomly. They quick questions that they got from me. And it was asking about divorce. Like, what happens? Like, they feel like they heard or they read that their partner's debt becomes their debt. If you co-sign for someone, anyone, their debt will become your debt. It does impact your credit score. But it's not just like if this person racked up on a ton of debt that you had no idea about, that it goes on your credit unless he put your name down or she put your name down in Social Security now as a co-applicant and you were not aware of it. Um, what was I gonna say? Also, sometimes I'm not a divorce attorney, but also if you were to get a divorce and they accumulated a lot of debt, they may try to say, oh, this was accumulated on, I accumulated the debt, but you benefited from it. So some divorces may divide the debt. So that's a little bit different. But just in general, their credit score does not impact you applying or getting credit. You don't get a married credit score. And so the Equifax link that I dropped goes more in depth with a lot of myths that people think about credit scores. I put another note I wanted to say. Joint accounts. Oh, I would just say, they have bad credit just in general. I would, is their behavior going to change? Why do they have bad credit? I don't know if y'all watch Love is Blind, but I do, and I keep saying I'm never gonna watch the season, and then I end up watching the season again. Let me know if you watch Love is Blind in the in the comment section below, and in my replay game if you watch Love is Blind on Netflix. But the last season, I forgot that boy name. He lied to his fiance about his credit. So the narrative they were saying was it was Izzy. Izzy was lying, y'all. And they were at a gas station and she was like, why? He was like, oh, he didn't have his debit card. She's like, oh, the fiance was like, why don't you just use a credit card? You always just use cash or debit card. Now I don't see nothing wrong with that because I feel like, you're not accumulating debt. What's wrong with that? But sis had a good eye on Izzy. And he was like, oh, he made up a lie. And then like a day before the wedding, he was like, I have horrible credit. I think his credit score was like 500 or something, or maybe 600, like low 600s, but I think it was 500. And he was like, he just made decisions when he was young, but he's working to pay the debt off or whatever. And it's like, why did you lie about it? What's your behavior now? They didn't end up getting married, and she said it didn't have nothing to do with it. But my thing is, what is their behavior like now? Are you going to have to pick up the slack because they're financially irresponsible? So that's just something to consider. I'm not saying not to get married to that person. I'm just saying to see where their financial mindset is and how y'all can be more aligned. All right. So now I'm going to move on to the investing questions. And again, as I'm going through these topics, you have any travel related questions, anything that jogs your memory that you may have had on credit or business, drop it in the chat and I will answer it. Yeah. Yeah. Paying off debt will drop your credit score. So I paid off all my debt, my personal debt, because then I bought a house at 30. And as I paid off all my student loans, you lose the history of your account. So as you're paying off debt, one component of your credit score is the age, the length of time you've had credit. So I had my student loans at 18. So 28, 10 years later, that's 10 years of history just chopping off. Like my average age of history on my credit report changed, and so my credit score dropped. So there's a lot of different things that could be impacting credit score. That's a really good point. That's why I'm like, understand their behavior. Um before anything, but just in general, it doesn't impact your credit score unless you co-sign. All right, investing. So what are the best stocks to invest in? Y'all, that's $1 million question. I think I said this before on a live. If I if anybody knew the magic, had a magic 8 ball, and like this is the company, everybody always say this is the company to invest in. That could be insider trading, and you could be like Martha Stewart in jail. So just to be aware of that. It's all about speculation when it comes to picking stock. I have said it time and time again. I do not personally purchase individual stocks. I just don't think it's advantageous for me and my net worth and what I got going on. But that's not the same for everyone. What I recommend, and I am going to I got two people I want to bring on to talk about this, about investing in stock, because this is what they do. Um, but just my opinion, what are the best stocks to invest in? First, start with what products that are in your home. When you look at toothpaste, you looking at food products, Procter and Gamble, like companies. When you have stuff in your house, start picking it up, and see who made it. Right? Not every product you buy is publicly traded. If you are in Detroit area and you shop at Meyer, that is a private company. You cannot purchase Meyer stock. So I always say invest in what you know, see how much your stock costs. Some stock costs like GM. You can invest in GM for $40. You can buy a whole share of GM stock for $40. Now, is GM stock good? But it's all relative. Um, but I always say start with what you know. But if you want to be more of a educated investor, I suggest that you Google top performing sectors in the stock market. So sectors would be retail, it would be technology, it would be pharmaceuticals. You can see what are the leading sectors to give you an idea of what to research. Or you can just think about what is growing the most right now, what's on the rise. We know AI is on the rise, so that's technology, right? I mentioned before on a live about investing Ozempic and like pharmaceutical drugs with weight loss is on the rise. But just in general, pharmaceutical companies in the US, our food is pretty much killing us. So pharmaceutical is always going to continue to grow because they're making medicine to help with all the GMO food that they're creating here in this country, right? So you can look at that from that perspective. Electric vehicles, right? You see different things about electric vehicles. I think GM is saying in like 5 years, I don't know, don't quote me on it. Everything's going to be electric vehicles or something like that. So what goes into making electric vehicles? There's parts to it, right? You can see who are the manufacturers of these parts, right? So it's not just GM, it could be the manufacturer. So my thing is do research on companies that you have around your house or products you use all the time. That's one way to start. And the other way is thinking about sectors. And the other way is to think about trends that are going on that electric vehicles, AI, energy sustainability, and see what's going on there. Also, there's a ton of investing podcasts you can listen to just become more familiar with what people are talking about. But again, that's all speculative. Um, it's all a perceived value because, like WeWork, for example, they were valued at millions and then they went public and their value tanked, right? So that's why I think investing in individual stocks is risky, but hopefully that helps. Next question is, and this was going to be my last question I answered for this live today. I had some more retirement questions, but I think I'm gonna go in on this. I laughed when I saw this question, not because of the question, but it didn't have a long paragraph. It was just like, I don't understand what I should be looking at when looking at my 401k. How do I know if I'm doing it right? How do I know if I'm doing it right? All right, so I decided I'm going to share a screen just to kind of show funds and what you may be seeing in your 401k, just to make it a little bit easier. But how do you know if you're doing it right? Is if you have returns every year. Returns meaning that your balance in your 401k is going up. So you should be logging into your account. Say you have it on your account, you see it. Okay, I got 30,000 in my 401k. What does this mean? You can look at your statements if you just logged in from a few weeks ago because you got motivated for my live, hey, and say, okay, last year it was 20,000, right? And you can be like, how much did I contribute? You know, if you contributed 10,000, that means you didn't have any performing stocks, you know, in your 401k. So how do you know if you're doing it right? You want your 401k balance to increase every year in addition to what you're contributing and what your employer match is. That tells you you're on the right track a little bit. The other part to that is you can decide to have it managed have your 401k managed. And what a financial advisor will do is they will say, you know, what's your goal for retirement? How much do you want to have when you retire? And you may be like, I do not know. What they will do is say, okay, the average person in your age, they need 1.5 million. So let's get you to where your balance will be valued at 1.5 million when you retire, right? So then they'll go through and say, we're going to pick this mutual fund. We're going to pick this, you know, these different funds to invest in, right? So that's what it would be if you had someone actively managing it for you in your 401k. Every plan sponsor, when I say plan sponsor, I'm meaning Empower, Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, whatever. They are going to have people to sell to you. That's how they make their money. They make their money off commissions and investing in certain funds if they actively do it for you, right? So if you want to know how you're doing, if you're doing it right, I answered that already. I'll say it again. Is your 401k balance increasing above every year above to what you're contributing and what to your employer match is? And then I'm going to share my screen on what you should be doing. What should you be looking for? So hopefully this works. I'm going to go to Fidelity main screen. This is why I said this is going to be my last question because I wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to flip over to this. So when you go to Fidelity, like, okay, where do I start? Right? We're not going to open an account. We're not going to do any of that. You want to go to news and research, right? And you want to go down to mutual funds. There's all types of things. You can do individual stocks, you can do ETFs. There's a lot to do here. But I'm going to pick mutual funds because this is what you are more than likely going to see in your 401k. Again, even if you have Fidelity under your 401k plan sponsor, the view is going to look different than what the public sees right now. The interfaces are different. So you see quick criteria, fund strategy, fund picks from Fidelity. What the heck does all this mean? Morningstar rating means this is the agency that basically said, oh, this company, this stock is good or not. Fun fact, I mean, if you really want to know how shady Morningstar can be, watch The Big Short. It's all about the housing market crash and how allegedly Morningstar knew about it and they were rating companies just to be rating them so the millionaires and billionaires could continue to make more money. But I digress. Morningstar ratings is that it's an agency that's like, ooh, this is a good stock or good mutual fund to watch. So you can say, I want something with high returns, low expenses. So you can be like, okay, now I'll say in your 401k plan, you may not be able to pick like this, but I'm just going to go to this screen just to make it easy real quick. So I'm going to say I want high returns only. I'm gonna leave the expenses alone. I'm gonna say, you know what? I want them to at least have a 4-star rating. And I have 562 funds to look at. I'm not gonna go through and explain all this other stuff over here because that's a lot in itself. So you see a lot of numbers in green. So I'm gonna switch back over because right now I can't see any comments just to see if I have any comments. No, okay, on the screen. So you see this, you're like, this is overwhelming, Tasha. I don't know what I'm looking at. This is what you typically will see. This part right here in your 401k. You see 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. What am I looking at? And then you see the year to date, and you have daily in the parentheses, like all this stuff. These numbers mean the return that was received on this specific fund. Remember, a fund is a mix of companies all in one place. Like, so a container of, instead of you having your favorite conditioner just on the shelf in the bathroom, you have all your favorite conditioners in one container that's going to be like, okay, I'm good for the year. This is going to hold me over. This is how you think about what a fund. It's just a mix of all of your favorite things or companies in one place. So you can be like, okay, now what am I looking at? Just to make it easy, and for sake of time, you could say, you should look at what is performing the best, what is making the most money. Now, past performance does not indicate future performance at all. But if you want to see how you've been doing, because the question is, how do I know if I'm doing it right, or what should I be looking at? You should be looking at what funds. I'm sorry if I keep saying companies. What funds have been trending and doing good, right? So the higher the number, you see for years at 57% return. The higher the number, the more money you're making. Return means money, just in to keep it simple. So green, it means it's making money. Red, not making no money. You see it being negative. And you're like, you will see this when you go into your 401k at work, that you'll see a lot of numbers. Like, what does this mean? This mean it means in this area when it's showing 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, whatever life of the fund, this is meaning how much of a return this fund is making. The higher the number, the better the performance. The expense ratio is showing you how much it's costing to manage this fund. I don't see turnovers on this interface, which I wanted to explain, but that's just an overview of what you see. And then when I was talking about the sector, they have Morningstar category right here: technology, financial, large value. I was talking about small cap, mid cap, large cap on my other live that I was talking about with investing. This is kind of relates to that right here with the Morningstar category. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of perspective for the person that was asking about, like, what should they be looking for, and hopefully that was big enough for you to see on your screen. That's what you should be looking for: the returns. The higher the number, the better. There's more stuff that goes into it, but just that is just at a high level. So that's all I got for y'all today on Tasha Journeys Live. I didn't get through all my questions I wanted to, so I'll carry them over for next month. But don't be shy, y'all. If y'all have questions, go ahead and text it to me. I'm gonna drop my number because I did not do it. I thought I was gonna do it and I didn't. Um, this is a number you can text me at. Oh, crap. I got a lag on my end, y'all. I don't know what's going on my internet. This is the number you can text me at: 734-363-8845. If you have my personal number, do not text me your questions. Do not. Put them here. Text it to this number that I'm putting on the screen. Because what I'm going to do is just go through and take those questions, and then I will respond and let you know what episode I'm answering the question on. Because I do not engage in dialogue in my DMs or on text, y'all. A quick question, it doesn't exist. I always like to give people this example. If you've been at work and you've ever trained anyone, whether you were at retail or you were in corporate, let's just use McDonald's for example, because I used to work there for 7 years. When I trained somebody and they were like, "Oh, Latasha, I have a quick question." It was never quick. It was 10, 15 minutes of me explaining. Then they got a deer in headlights look, and I got to re explain it. It's the same thing if you got kids. Like they ask you something, it's not quick. You know it's gonna be a long dialogue. It's the same thing with quick questions with money. So you can text me, I'll answer them here. I'll let you know what episode I'm answering them on. If you join the live, you can have dialogue because you on the live. But other than that, I really encourage you to just go ahead and book a 15-minute call with me or a 1 hour call to get all your stuff answered. And thank y'all for joining me. Thank you, Tasha, for watching. And I will see y'all next Sunday at 1 because the whack Super Bowl, and I'm saying it's a whack because the Detroit Lions ain't in it. So, and I'm petty. So I'll see y'all next Sunday at 1. Until next time, bye.